In the context of this paper, the X that has an impact on Y, the X is religion or religious beliefs, and we measure it in a variety of ways. Y is happiness, and religion has quite an important impact on happiness. This is not necessarily, we're not the first one to point this out, but we try to go a little bit deeper, dig a little bit deeper and try to decompose what actually constitutes this impact of religion on happiness. I should say this is joint paper with Börke Tunalı, with whom I have written a number of papers now, and she's at the University of Istanbul in Turkey, and she was a visitor at Brunel a year ago. The whole paper started when we were contemplating what is the impact of religion on happiness. And there is actually a well-established result in the literature that religious people are more happy. And the question is, where does this come from? Does religion give them something which we might call tangible, or does it give them something which is not quite tangible, but sort of so is it in the material sphere, or is it in the mental, psychological sphere where this happiness is coming from? And so, that's essentially, that goes back to some sort of utility analysis of what religion brings to us, what it gives to us, or if you wish, cost and benefit analysis. Religion gives you a number of benefits, and so when you're religious, it gives you benefits in terms of social capital and networking, in the sense that if you go to a church or a temple or a mosque or whatever religious institution to pray and to worship, you meet other people. You meet the other members of your congregation, and you worship together, you interact together, you create friendship ties, and so on. And this has certain positive value in the sense that it may make you happier. If something bad happens, you have a family crisis, you lose your job, you are ill, religion can offer you spiritual support. The priest will come and he will tell you, this is okay, it will all come out well, this is all for the greater good, you have to be strong, and he will give you some sort of consolation that will help you get over this period. If you fall on tough times materially, the church or the religious congregation can support you materially. A lot of religions have an institution of charity whereby you have a moral obligation, a religious obligation to give to the needy. And so, for instance, in Sikh temples, actually anyone can walk into a Sikh temple and say, I am hungry, and they're supposed to feed you. So, so the members of your congregation can support you when you need money, when you don't have enough money to make ends meet. If you have a problem with your brother or your father or your wife, again, you can go to the priest, and he can help resolve this dispute. He can tell you to stop beating your wife, or he can tell the wife to stop complaining about it, or both, depending on what cultural norms they have and so on. But the main point is that they will help the dispute to go away, and he will hopefully come up, or she for that matter, will come up with some solution that will make things better for both of you. And then, last but not least, certainly not least, religion can give you some magical things. And so if you are gravely ill and you get better, you might be convinced that this is because of a miracle, because you made a sacrifice or you prayed to a specific deity or a saint or anything of that sort, and your health miraculously got better. And a condition that was supposed to be very serious suddenly became a lot less serious, and so on. So that's another benefit of religion. You can hope that something like this will happen to you, and if it does, then obviously the implications of this are quite serious. And then the last thing is, essentially all religions believe that once you die, there is some sort of continuation. Now this can be afterlife, where you can go to heaven or to hell, and this is associated with certain utility or a great deal of disutility if you go to hell. You can become reincarnated, and if you're reincarnated, again, that is associated with certain utility. You can become a little warm, and someone will step on you, or you can become an even better person than you were in this life. So basically, essentially an infinite horizon of utility, or there's this utility that might be coming your way, which again is associated with religion and is a possible benefit. And so this is an example. I didn't want to use a specific religion excessively. Is anybody familiar with this? This is a religious image, obviously. Does anybody recognize the religion?
Yeah, flying spaghetti monsters.
Exactly, it's the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, which is a relatively recent religion that emerged in the US. And it's been one of the fastest growing religions, where the main deity is a creature that is supposed to look like a meal of spaghetti with meatballs. As you can see. Right, so these are the supernatural benefits of religion. There are certain costs associated with religions. With religion, most obviously, if you are a member of a religion, it's costly in terms of time. It's costly in terms of effort, so you have to go to church every week, once every Sunday for a mass. If you're Muslim, you're supposed to pray 5 times a day. You attend religious festivals. You may be expected to give offerings to the temple or to the church. This can be financial, or you bring gifts, etc. So it's costly to be a member of a religion. More importantly, there are all kinds of behavior restrictions. You are supposed to dress in a certain way, because this is the traditional way, or this is seen as modest, or because simply this is what whoever interpreted the religious scriptures tells you is the appropriate way. So for instance, here when you go to church, if you're a woman, you're supposed to cover your hair. And this is a restriction. If you go to churches in some other countries, you don't have to do this, and so on. In some places, if you go to a church or a temple or a mosque, if you wear shorts or if you wear a short skirt, again, they will not let you in because it's immodest. So you have all these restrictions. A lot of religions tell you how you're supposed to behave and what you're supposed to or not supposed to eat or drink. So some religions have a prohibition on alcohol. Some religions don't allow you to eat pork. Other religions don't allow you to eat beef, etc. So you have all these restrictions that are imposed because you are a member of a specific religion. Some religions are stricter than others. This will be part of what we will talk about. You may be subject to physical harm. Some religions ask that you are circumcised. There is male circumcision, there is female circumcision. There may be other physical interventions that you might be asked to undergo because it's part of a religious tradition. Some religions impose prohibitions on the use of modern technology, medicine, science. Jehovah's Witnesses, for instance, don't allow blood transfusions. And there are people who die because they had an accident or they have a medical condition that could be resolved by giving them a blood transfusion, and they refuse because it would be a sin. A lot of religions don't allow the use of birth control. And that has certain implications. There are religions that don't allow the use of certain aspects of modern technology, and so on. Actually, I have a picture of this. These are the Amish, which is a religious group that migrated to the US from what is now Germany, some 200 years ago. And they have quite strict restrictions on their behavior, including the use of modern technology. They basically refuse modern technology. That's why they dress the way they always used to dress when they migrated from Germany to the US. As you can see, they don't use birth control. This is a typical Amish family where you have the father, I think behind him is the wife, and the rest are presumably his children. They don't use motor vehicles. Some of them don't use shoes, as you can see. They're not allowed to use electricity, etc. So, a lot of things which you would take for granted is not allowed for them because their religion doesn't allow it. The religion doesn't sanction it. And as a result of that, they have to give it up. And so, they look a specific way, but also a lot of things, they don't have mobile phones, they don't have computer games, they don't have television or YouTube for that matter, and so on. I mentioned the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Some people, some members of this church actually claim that they have a behavioral restriction. They're supposed to wear a pasta strainer. So you have two examples. These are actual ID cards. The top one is from the Czech Republic. The bottom one is from Austria. And these people asked that the official authorities recognize their religious restriction that they had to wear a pasta strainer on their head in their official ID picture. Actually, the lower one is a driver's license, but it's an officially issued document. So if you're a Muslim, you might request to wear a headscarf. If you're a Sikh, you might want to wear a turban. And if you're a so-called pastafarian, you will have a pasta strainer on your head. So, you know, it's not obvious whether they...
Pastafarians, really?
If you're a member of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, then the short description is a pastafarian.
He said a word. Did you know they were just joking to the whole
It's a serious religion.
Are they serious?
It's an actual
I think the Czech guy actually had to go to court to get. So they originally refused his request. He took the authorities to court, and the court decided that if the constitution gives religious groups the right to have, you know, religious symbols in the picture, or, you know, apparel that is required by the religion, if this guy believes that his religion requires that he wears a pasta strainer, who is the local official to tell him that this is not right? And then this is some sort of a ceremony of the pastafarians where, again, they're wearing a pasta strainers and they have some sort of religious implement that, again, has spaghetti with meatballs. Sorry, somebody had a question.
Do they have a leader, like a priest, or what is this person called?
There is a person, so the history of the religion was, I think it started in Kansas. There is a person who essentially sent a letter to some local authority somewhere, I think in Kansas, where this authority decided that evolution and so-called intelligent design should be taught in schools as equivalent explanations of how life came about. And he wrote a letter essentially congratulating them and hoping that in the future they will be even more open-minded, so that the evolutionary theory, or, you know, that story of creation as presented by the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster will be included as well. And then he posted this online, and that's essentially how the religion took off. But as you can see, well, some people might think it's a joke, but obviously a lot of people take it seriously enough to have an official driver's license or an official ID issued with a pasta strainer. I'm not sure whether they would always drive with the pasta strainer in the back of the car just to make sure they can put it on if they're ever pulled over. Anyway, this is the last pastafarian picture in this presentation. So the bottom line is, so you have all these benefits that you get because of a religion. You have all kinds of costs, such as wearing a pasta strainer, which is probably not very convenient as it comes to apparel. It's probably also not very practical, given it has lots of holes. But you know, basically you have costs and benefits, and the net balance of this can be, in terms of utility, can be positive or negative. And that is essentially what we wanted to see in this paper. And so what we do in this paper, we started off essentially looking at two things. One is different religions have different restrictions. Again, only pastafarians have to wear a metallic headgear on their head. Other religions have other restrictions, and so you know, some of these restrictions can be a bit more of a burden than others. Some of the benefits created or associated with different religions can also be more significant than others. And so the net balance can be positive or negative, but it's not necessarily the same across different religions. And so we wanted to account for membership in different religions to see whether people who belong to different religions derive similar net benefits in terms of their happiness out of their membership in that religion. And the other issue is, you know, a lot of people say, I am religious, And then all they do is they go to church at Christmas, if it's a Christian person, or not even that. Other people go to church every week, or even every day. And so, some people participate more actively, more intensely than others. And does this make a difference? So we wanted to also account not only for differences across different religions, but also for the intensity of their religious membership and intensity of their beliefs. And that's essentially what we do in the paper, looking at differences across different religions and the impact of religious intensity or intensity of religiosity and the frequency or intensity of religious participation. Now, as I said, we are not the first ones to look at the impact of religion on happiness. There is actually quite a lot of literature. The basic result is that religious people are more happy. Now, a number of people looked at various aspects of this. And so if you are religious, but you live in a religiously fragmented society, you are less happy than you would be otherwise. And so if you live in a place like, I don't know, former Yugoslavia before the wars in the early 1990s, where you had a lot of different religious groups, that would lower some of the happiness. Given whatever level of religiosity you have, living in a religiously fragmented society is not.
But do they control for things in that paper like overall institutional quality? Because if you have a place that has really weak institutions that do not promote religious tolerance across different religions, then fragmentation could have that. But if you're thinking about even Tbilisi, or if you're in New York City, or if you're even in Beirut, you have a lot of fragmentation, but maybe that's because of those environments, it's actually peaceful.
That's a good question. I don't think this argument necessarily relates to essentially the militarization of religious fragmentation, where you have a conflict that is somehow spurned by religious fragmentation. I think it's simply, basically, what it probably reflects is the fact that a lot of these benefits that you derive from being a member of the religion depend on how many co-religionists you have. And so if you are, say, Muslim and you live in a majority Christian society, you probably derive less of the social benefits of being a Muslim than you would derive otherwise. It may also be more difficult to, for instance, purchase food which would be actually acceptable for your consumption. It may be more expensive. You may find it annoying when every morning your neighbor fries bacon and you get that smell coming through the window and so on. I don't know, I'm just speculating. Anyway, so religion makes you happier. Who are the people around you? That matters as well. If you're religious and your income drops because of some adverse shock, then you suffer less in terms of happiness. So if you lose your job or you smash your car, this is a negative shock on your income, but if you are religious, it has less of a negative impact on your happiness. You probably believe that everything will end up good anyway because there's some sort of greater purpose behind this. Now, if you're non-religious and you live among religious people, you're happier as well. So having religious people around you increases your happiness, maybe because the people are kinder or more altruistic than if you lived among godless persons only. If you participate even in costly activities, it increases your happiness. This last paper, this looked at people who were fasting during the Ramadan, which is actually a pretty costly exercise because you're from sunrise until sunset, you're not allowed to eat or drink. So it's quite physically demanding. But people who do this report higher happiness as a result of doing this. Now, there's a number of papers that try to explain why religion is, has this positive effect on happiness. One of the nicest papers is by Eli Berman, who essentially argues this is all about club economics. If you're a member of a religion, you're a member of a club. And you get club goods. You get benefits that are associated with this member. So if you join a golf club, the benefit is that you can play golf on the golf course and you can meet other people who are similar to you and have similar interests. If you join a religion, then again you have these benefits. Now, he argues that all these restrictions on how you are supposed to dress, how you're supposed to behave, etc., these are imposed to discourage free riding. If anybody could join a religion when they like, without paying any cost, then everybody who needs help would say, oh, I'm a member of your church. But if you don't dress a particular way, and if you are not known for dressing in that way on a regular basis, then you will not be able to get these benefits that you would normally get as a member of the church. There's a number of papers that argue that one of the reasons why religion, the role of religion and religiosity decline over time, especially in modern societies, is that a lot of the benefits that used to be provided by religions are now provided elsewhere. So you don't have to join a church in order to get material help when you become unemployed, because now you'll get unemployment benefits. If you fall ill, again, you don't have to rely on the member of your congregations to bring you food and drink and support you financially, because you will get sickness pay and so on. And so the benefits are less important than otherwise. This is actually what you mentioned, the legal institutions as well. As if you have a dispute with your neighbor, or if you have a dispute with your wife, now we have institutions that will resolve it. You can take your neighbor to court, or you can lodge an official complaint. You can start divorce proceedings with your wife, or she can report you for domestic violence, etc. So you have other methods, other channels that are available to you that don't require that you join a religion and that you pray every day, and so on. And yeah, the other aspect of this literature was also, if you think of a typical consumption bundle of a person in a modern country, it's a lot more complicated and a lot more diverse than a consumption bundle of a person in a middle-income economy. And so this is another reason why religion is less important these days, because now we have all these possibilities which are not necessarily allowed by the various religions, which they were not around when these religious scriptures were being formulated. And so that's one of the reasons why becoming an Amish person right now is not very attractive, because if you were considering whether to become Amish or whether to stay Amish, say 150 years ago, you were not giving up all that much. But now you will be giving up modern medicine, antibiotics, the electricity, motor vehicles, the internet, mobile telephony, and all these things which the Amish cannot use, which make our lives quite more interesting and happier. Right. Okay, so what we do in this paper, this is an entirely empirical paper, so we don't present any theoretical arguments. We look at data from the European Social Survey. So this is a survey carried out in 30 roughly European countries. So not all of them are, strictly speaking, in Europe, because it includes Turkey, Israel, and Russia. And not all of these are entirely in Europe. Georgia, sadly, is not in the survey. Now, the main question that we have is a question on happiness. Taking all things together, how happy would you say you are? And this is rated, people rated themselves from 0 to 10. 0 is basically you're outright suicidal, and 10 is you're extremely happy. You know, it couldn't be possibly any better. And then we have information on religious denominations, and we have the main religions. And for the time being, the ESS doesn't include the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, but we have the Roman Catholics, Protestants, Eastern Orthodox, other Christians, Jews, or Jewish religion, Islam, Eastern religions, and other. And I think we edit Eastern religions and other as other category because there are very few. Now, not all people indicated that they're a member of one of these religions, and we use this as our baseline category. We expect that if someone doesn't say even that they're a member of some other religion, that these people are not religious at all. So we compare essentially members of all the other religions to those who say that they're not a member of a religion at all. Yes?
So you used the word as a godless people. So do you equal godless people to non-religious people? Because I think
that was the meaning that I used, in which I used this term.
Because in many countries, especially in secular states, many people would say what they believe in God, but they are not religious.
So you
Because
mean the
religion
difference
was-
between agnostic and atheist, right?
Basically, yeah.
So you could be a deist but not religious or something.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, well, godless is not in the survey. So, you know, whatever I use, that's something that I edit to embellish part of the narrative. But we don't have a godless category. Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So non-religious people, you don't estimate how happy non-religious people you estimate.
They're part of the analysis. Basically, we compare everybody else to people who say they're not a member of a religion.
Right, okay.
So we have dummies for the religious group here, and the zero is basically people who don't belong to either of them. And I will actually show you that in some countries it's a fairly large share of the population. And there are countries where majority claims to be not to be a member of any religion. Czech Republic is one of them. We had a picture of a pastafarian there from a Czech Republic. Anyway, so we have membership in the main religious denominations, and then we have how religious people are. This is ranked from 0 to 10. Again, 0 is not at all religious, and 10 is very religious. And this is a separate question. And actually, last time I presented this, I remember that I wanted to compare how many people who don't claim any religion say that they have a religiosity greater than 0, and I forgot to do it. So, if you want to ask me this next time, or you can email me. I'll tell you later. And then we also have an indicator how often people pray, and this is actually reverse scale. 1 is every day, 7 is never. So, yes.
This question is the only way to measure happiness, or there are other?
There are also other. There is life satisfaction and various aspects. So there's a question: how satisfied are you with your life? How satisfied are you with the economy? How satisfied are you with the government, and so on?
Okay, because maybe some religions do not allow to complain. I mean, if you must praise maybe.
Do you know which one? Do you have a specific religion in mind?
Christian.
Okay, yeah. That's a good question. That never occurred to me.
Follow this rule.
No, don't.
Even very religious people complain.
So, given that this is a European survey, most people would be one way or another Christians, and there is variation, obviously. But yeah, it's a good point. There may be semantic differences across different countries, in the sense that when you say I am extremely happy, on a scale of 10, in some countries that may be close to a normal state of affairs. In other countries, saying that you're extremely happy, you would really have to be in paradise for that. So there may be these differences, but we include country-specific dummies. Okay, so now I can start saying things that shouldn't be on the record.
Here is one.
Yeah, so there may be these differences across countries in the sense that some people, being happy on this 11-point scale, when you say your happiness is 8 out of 10, in some countries, when people are naturally more conservative, this might indicate extremely high happiness. I guess in English, when you say 8 out of 10, that's kind of a normal state of affairs. But again, that would be taken into account, that would be accounted for by having fixed effects in our regressions, which we include. And we have a broad array of socioeconomic characteristics, so we know whether the respondents are male, female, how educated they are, how old they are, whether they're married, whether they have kids, where they live approximately, whether it's a big city, small town, a small village, or in the middle of nowhere, and all these other things. We have an indication of income, which is not nominal, because we have many countries, but how well they are able to cope with their current income, whether they're very comfortable or whether they're having a hard time making ends meet. And we have a scale of indicator in between, and so on. And we have fixed effects for the 5 different waves, and for basically from which country people are from. Some descriptive statistics. These are the countries included in the survey. This is the happiness. This is all out of 10, and so as you can see, what you cannot see is the average number. So you note something important. I think the worst place is Greece. Greece is 6.5.
Bulgaria is 5.5.
Yeah, 5.3. So Bulgaria is probably the worst place. Ukraine is 5.5. That is before the war, I think. So,
Yeah,
maybe
I
it's
think
before.
generally like the Eastern Europe tend to be lower. At least some of the work by
In
Jacob.
general, Eastern European countries tend to score lower on happiness, but the poorer countries tend to score lower as well. And the income is a very robust determinant of happiness, especially at the aggregate level. You essentially see this. So, within the Western European countries, Greece would be probably the least happy. It's also probably the poorest country. Portugal is not doing that great. On the other hand, you have 8 there, which is Switzerland, which is very rich. Denmark 8.3, Finland 8, Netherlands 7. No, Luxembourg is 7.8. Where is the UK? The UK is here, 7.4, which is where I come from. That's as a point of reference. Yeah.
But actually, so can I ask
Yeah,
a
please.
question? Like in UK, for example, where the happiness score is 7.4, there are a lot of people who are not religious, right? 71%. I mean,
So
70.
this is the
I can see really-
this is the other interesting column. Well, religiosity as well. So we can look at religiosity. Yeah. So in the UK, the average religiosity out of 10 is 4. So people are not very religious. I
But
think the
they
most
do-
religious country is Turkey, more than 7. I talked about the Czech Republic, 2.6, and Germany, I think, is 3.9, so that's quite a bit. But the Czech Republic is probably the most godless country, to use the same term again. Yeah, the average country in Europe is around 5, I think. Russia, which is nearby, is a bit more religious than Germany and so on. So this is quite interesting as well. So these are the people who say they're not a member of any religion.
Why there is so huge difference between Slovakia and Czech Republic? They seem to be.
So Slovakia is here, 5.9, so basically 6. The Czech Republic is less than 3. Different history, including different religious history. So this used to be a single country for about 80 years. They had a completely separate history until then. The Czech Republic, what is now the Czech Republic, was a Bohemian kingdom, where Slovakia was part of Hungary. Slovakia was, and the rest of Hungary was always deeply Catholic, whereas the Bohemian kingdom became Protestant, and then the Austrians invaded and reimposed Catholicism, and I think this reimposed conversion to Catholicism actually made a lot of people quite not so keen on religion in the first place. So yeah. But like I said, so this is quite interesting. In the Czech Republic, essentially 3/4 of the people say that they're not a member of any religion. So only 27% actually associate with any religion, which in this country would be Catholic or Protestant probably. 23 are Catholics and 2% are Protestant. On the other hand, the other extreme is Turkey, where less than 3% say that they're not a member of any religion. So basically, almost the entire population are a member of some religion, and as you can see, 96% of them are Muslims. Some of the other notable countries that are quite godless: Estonia, 76. So actually, that's even more than in the Czech Republic. Roughly 70% in France. I think Germany was quite high. No, I was wrong. Only 45.
UK.
57 in the Netherlands. UK, 71 in the UK. 69 in is it Sweden? Sweden, yes. So basically, this option of not belonging to any religion is actually quite common. In fact, it's the majority in probably half a dozen or more countries. Majority of the respondents, at least in the service, claim that they're not a member of any religion. So this is the base category. We are going to be looking at all of these other guys and compare them with people who claim that they're in this column. And we see these are the people. Now, this is sort of leap of faith, because we don't really know. Maybe these are people who are a member of some kind of cult, and they don't want to say what it is. And for whatever reason, they don't want to say that it's other. But we assume that, given that you also have the other option, and you have some relatively broad categories, such as other Christians. So, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, or if you're a member of one of these evangelical churches and so on, you can always say that you're some other Christian. But people who don't belong to any of these categories, not even the other categories,
So,
presumably they don't have religion at all. Yes?
what's the other Christian for Luxembourg? It's a big number. What's
That's a very good question. I don't know. It's the only country where it's actually quite significant. Which might be actually a bit of a problem because then it becomes very similar to a country dummy. But what it is, I suspect that other Christians would be all these evangelical churches, so Baptists, Methodists, and so on. People who are not Roman Catholic or Protestant or Eastern Orthodox.
Maybe they forgot to add Protestant in the questionnaire for Luxembourg.
Possibly. I think that's rather unlikely, but yeah, we don't really know. Strictly speaking, we don't know. Right, okay. Yeah, this is the intensity of praying. Here, unlike with the religiosity, high number means that people don't pray very often. And it's out of 7, not out of 10. In the Czech Republic, basically, the typical person prays almost never. 7 means never. And the typical, an average Czech person says it's, 6 out of 7. In the UK, it's 5 out of 7. In Turkey, it's 1.8 out of 7. 1 means every day. So, to look at some countries nearby, Russia, 5 out of 7, Ukraine, 4 out of 7.
I'm sorry, what percentage of population?
What do you mean?
Is it everyone like?
No, these are surveys. We have 5 waves, and we have something like 2,000 to 3,000 per country. So these are national representative surveys. And large countries have larger samples. So Germany has a bigger sample, whereas Luxembourg and Malta, these small countries, would have something 300 or 400. But most countries would have something like close to 2,000 respondents.
What were the age groups that you surveyed? Because it's
Representative, should be representative.
So all the ages.
It should be. I didn't check. I could actually do it very easily. I mean, it would take me literally a few minutes of my life.
Yeah, it would be interesting kind of to have this comparison into generations, because for instance in Georgia you can see some differences into youngsters being and the adults in religiosity.
That would be interesting. Yes, it would also be interesting to observe the same people. So if we had a panel, these are just repeated cross sections. But there's this, it's called Pascal's wager, where basically the story is that because of all these restrictions that religions impose on you, you should not be religious as long as you don't expect to die soon. And you should convert on your deathbed. So you should see sort of a rising share of people becoming religious as they come closer to an age where they can expect to die any minute, more or less. But for that, we will literally have to observe people, because otherwise we will be comparing different cohorts, and if we find that older people are more religious, it's not necessarily because the probability that they will die soon is higher. It might also be because they have different upbringing, different traditions, and so on. But yeah. We don't try to explain religiosity. It's not in this paper. It could be interesting as well, and it might be interesting to edit just as a sort of back of the envelope calculation, some descriptive analysis, but we haven't done it at this stage. some of the results, so these are the regression results. This is sort of summary. Men are less happy than women. Married people are happier than single. Educated people are happier. So we do it separately for males and females, but when we have males and females, being a male reduces your happiness. We have a U-shaped effect of age. Did I?
I have a doubt about the reasons why
About which
men are
reason?
less happy.
I didn't say any reasons. But you're doubting them already.
No, I'm not doubting. I'm just sure why you have that kind of result.
Why?
So tell me.
Do tell.
In Georgia, for instance, males are less happy because women are less freer for relations because of being religious. So that's a very typical Georgian reason.
Georgia is not in the sample.
I would say every Christian country.
No, I think other Christian countries are less conservative than Georgia. But that's an interesting perspective. That would explain why married people are happier. As you can see, actually married men are even happier than married women. Because they don't have to worry about all these women who are not prepared to enter into a relationship with them because they already have a woman at home. Yeah, if you have a larger family, it makes you happier. If you have children, it makes you less happy. And especially if you're a woman.
Less happy.
This is after controlling for household size. So basically, I think what this means is, so there's an age limit, which I don't remember what it is in the survey, but if you have a large family and they're already all grown up, then you're happy. But I don't know how many of you have children, but you know, having a small baby at home is not necessarily such a great happiness-inducing part of your life. We have measures of where people live that has some meaning. Having higher income is good for your happiness. So here we have being comfortable is the omitted category, and basically all the other categories are reducing happiness. So when we have multiple dummies for a given variable, then one of them has to be omitted. For income, being comfortable with your income is the omitted category, and being coping, having a difficult time, and finding it very difficult to make ends meet. All of those make you less happy relative to being comfortable.
The farm and countryside coming in quite strong and positive. That's interesting.
That's what I guess. Living in a so that's relative to living in a city and a large city, and there's a lot of stressful factors associated with that. You know, congestion, pollution, high prices, small house sizes, whatever else. So I'm not particularly surprised that this is the case. Students are happy, especially males.
Good job, guys.
If you're unemployed, you're less happy.
Wait till you're a professor.
Inactive, you're less happy. If you're sick or disabled, you're less happy, not surprisingly. So being retired, if you're a man, you're happy. If you're a woman, you're grumpy. If you are stay-at-home housewife or house husband, you're happier. And this is where we have the religious categories. And basically everyone is happier for being religious. Which is essentially, so this reproduces what everybody else found, except here we account for different religions. Being a member of any religions other Eastern Orthodox.
That's interesting, the Eastern Orthodox, because actually I think Simeon Jenkov recently presented a paper where they're looking at this kind of stuff, and it seems similar.
That's tricky because if we look at who is Eastern Orthodox, it will be Greeks. No, that's Eastern religions. Eastern Orthodox, so it's Cyprus, Bulgaria,
Russia, Ukraine, Bulgaria,
Estonia, Greece. Russia and Ukraine. So it's basically the Greek and Slavic people in this sample. And so again, it's tricky to interpret the result when it's associated with only one or two, either nationality or ethnicity. I mean, it can be something which is specific for Greeks and Russians and Ukrainians, which is presumably in Estonia, these are all the ethnic Russians. But it can be essentially anything. Actually, now that I think of it, Eastern Orthodox is the dominant religion in Estonia. Anyway, yeah, but so this is the first result where we only account for membership in different denominations. Sorry, it's the previous table. When we account for membership in different religions, and here it's all good, all positive, and strongly significant, except for the Greeks and Russians and Ukrainians and Bulgarians. So it's the Eastern Orthodox, but being a member of any of these religions is good for your happiness. There are some differences in the sense that the other Christians are, I think, the happiest lot, especially for men. On the other hand, for women, it's good to be Muslim or Jewish. And I actually was surprised by this because these are religions that impose quite strict restrictions on women in terms of how they can behave, how they're supposed to dress, etc. But women seem to enjoy that, or at least it makes them happy. Catholics are not particularly happy. I think that's after Eastern Orthodox, it's the second lowest category. We see some differences across genders for some of these religions. Again, like I said, it's better to be other Christian men, Muslim or Jewish women, etc. That's about it.
Is it?
Sorry?
For the, I didn't get it. It's like for women being Muslim and Jewish, make them happier than other religions.
Well, so
Isn't it strange?
again, this is all of these coefficients. You have to compare them to the base category, which is not being a member of any religion. So basically, being a Jewish woman makes you happier than having no religion at all. But also, you can compare, say, being a Muslim woman with being other Christian woman, and the coefficient is greater. You can similarly compare being Jewish woman and Jewish man. Being a Jewish man doesn't have a significant impact on your happiness, but being a Jewish woman does. So there are differences across genders and differences across religions here.
And do you have other indicators like number of how frequently people pray in this?
We do. It will come up later.
Because even if I identify myself as a Christian, for example, I might not be very religious. I might not go to the church. I might just, be a Christian. So when I was born, I'm Georgian, so I'm Christian. But it doesn't really mean that I'm religious, right?
Well, yes, but a lot of people would be exactly like this. A lot of those people who say that they don't belong to any religion in, let's say, the Czech Republic or Estonia would presumably have been born as a member of a particular religion,
So
whatever, 20 or 40 years ago when they were born.
Okay, so like we assume that if I say that I'm a Christian, Eastern Christian, then
it's your
I
own
pray
self-declaration.
and I'm religion.
That's the assumption that we're making. So if you don't declare any membership, if you don't declare membership in any religious category, we assume you are not religious, basically atheist or agnostic, or just not religious at all. Again, it's basically how people identify themselves. So this is not whether you were baptized at birth, not necessarily. But then for some people, maybe the fact that they were baptized means that they're going to be a member of that church for the rest of their lives. For other people, it's an insignificant act, which doesn't have any bearing on how they identify. But again, it's up to the respondents how they sort it out in their head when they answer this question. And I don't think the survey would ask them, have you been baptized or something like this.
Well, I think it's a shame that in the data they don't. I'm not going to say that I'm religious, although I do celebrate Eastern, Orthodox holidays and Catholic holidays as well. And at the same time, I don't consider myself religious because I don't go to church to pray, and
And church wouldn't consider you really
Yeah,
same thing. Church doesn't consider you religious if you don't go to the church every week, and if you don't pray or you don't fast, or you might believe in God in general, but that's kind of
Yeah, that's right. I remember the last time I was here, about 2 months ago, every restaurant had on the menu indication fasting or non-fasting, which was the first time I've seen that actually. But yeah.
Because it's not necessarily right to call people who are agnostic and atheist, because those are people, basically, me and the person sitting next to me, we believe like if something happens to us, we're still going to believe that everything's going to end up well, because you know, God is not going to do like anything horrible and everything's going to be perfect in the end.
You're just not prepared to, put in the time and effort.
Yeah,
to actually.
So basically, you still have faith, but you just. You
So
don't
this goes back to the argument about clubs, and these are the free riders who believe that God is merciful, but they're not prepared to spend 1 hour on a Sunday to go and pray.
Basically, as long as you still get the benefits of the living.
You're assuming that you will, but you might be completely wrong.
Well, so.
Do we have information about the samples, how to say, psychological state? Like, I think it's quite pathetic. Like, if you have problem with your psychology, you tend to be happier with religion, I think. I don't know. It's okay, it's like there is a classic verse, right? Religion is opium of the society, like Karl Marx.
Yeah,
so if you smoke weed or take opium every day, you will be happier anyway. But
I don't think we have any information on drug use in the sample. I can check.
Not drug use. I think it's.
And are you saying I should use it as another religious category?
No, not drug use. I think it's like drug use, religion.
Yeah.
It's totally irrational for women to be Muslim and happier than, I don't know. Strange.
How do you know you're not a woman?
It's totally irrational, right?
Maybe you are not
Also
you are
about
a
the-
Muslim
about
woman
the
and you are not
questions
religious, you have a lot of
In
problems.
this case,
So
are you asked about the happiness first, or are you asked about it after you are asked the questions about religion?
That's a good question. I don't know.
You might
yeah.
feel that I should answer that because there is a question about religion and the God. I mean, it's
Yeah, so framing issues are important. How the question is posed, and whether they ask, do you believe in God, and then are you happy?
yeah, if you say that you pray 7 times a week,
Yeah.
and then you say that, well, I'm not happy still. You might
Well,
be
these are surveys designed by sociologists.
unfaithful.
I trust that they actually put some thinking into how to design these surveys. But I'm not an expert on this, and I have the questionnaire, but I don't remember what is the order of these questions. But it's unlikely that they would be next to one another. If I remember correctly, there's a number of questions on life satisfaction, and they wouldn't put the religiosity question in between or something like that. But I would have to go back and check. Anyway, yeah. So basically I showed you this table where we have all these different individual characteristics, and they're included in every regression that I will be showing you after, except I will not be including these coefficients, because basically not much changes when we enter additional religiosity measures. Married people are still happier than unmarried people and so on. So the next table has the same individual characteristics, but I just put yes at the top of the table that they are included. I'm not going to include them again. But what we did differently here, now we have all the membership in the religious categories in the main religious denominations. Then we have the measure of religiosity down here, and then we have interaction terms between religiosity and membership in these different groups. And this is where it actually becomes more interesting. So the first thing is religiosity has a positive impact. So the more religious you are, the happier you are. This is a 0 to 10 variable. So basically for every movement on this scale, you will become a little bit happier. If you're a member of any of these religions, then again, the more religious you are, the happier you are as well. So if you're a Catholic, you are a happier person if you are more religious than if you are less religious. Whereas the dummies for membership in religion, in religious groups, now all become negative or insignificant. Actually, most of them are negative and significant. One or two of them are insignificant. I think one is insignificant. And so now, how to interpret these results? If you say that you're a member, so that's what you were saying. If you say, or you as well, if you're a member of say the Georgian church, but you don't go to church, you don't pray, you're not particularly religious, but you still feel associated with the church, then basically, so that would be probably Eastern Orthodox. It has a negative impact on your happiness. And the reason, presumably, is you're still subject to all these restrictions. You still have to fast. That's, whatever it is in March or something like that. I think, is it before Easter?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So, during this period before Easter, you still fast. You're still not free to enter into relationship with the gentleman over there. And all these restrictions, because you're religious, and the religion tells you not to do these things, but you're not particularly strongly religious. So you don't get the bonus that the people who fast and they're happy for it get. So just being a member of a religion doesn't actually give you much. Being a member of the religion and being devoted, being passionate about it, is what makes you happy. So it's the religiosity that makes you happy, and the religiosity, again, has an impact on its own across all religious categories, but then for each of these categories we have additional impact, and this is where we have the differences. And so, let's see, they're not, some of the coefficients are bigger. So for instance, Catholics have the highest coefficient, no, Muslims have the highest coefficient. So basically, if you're a Muslim, you really want to be deeply religious and be a Muslim. You don't want to be a Muslim and be non-religious. Because you can't have pork, you can't drink wine, you can't talk to women, you can't meet women in private, or men for that matter, and all these things. You have all these restrictions that are imposed on you, and if you don't really believe in the religion, then it is going to make you unhappy. So you can just as well become non-religious, godless person.
Maybe this is a problem of fragmented religious societies, what you said. Because in Turkey, as most of them, 94% are Muslim, it's not good not to be Muslim, not to be religious. And that's why females are more happy. Because if you are not religious in Turkey, it imposes a lot of costs on you.
That's true, but we have a fair number. So 11% in Bulgaria, 2.5% in Switzerland, 2% in Germany, close to that in Denmark, Spain, France 2%, Greece, Israel 15%, 14%, 5% in Russia. So basically, if you add up all of these numbers, probably half of the Muslims in the Central are Turks, half of them are in other countries, maybe actually more than half. So it's not, in this case, it's not only about Turks, but otherwise I take your point.
Maybe like being a Muslim in a Muslim country, being religious, it's a bad equilibrium. If everybody is religious and you are not, you will face a lot of troubles. But maybe if no one is religious, it's better for all of them. So this might be the case of bad equilibrium.
True, but this is being a Muslim and not being particularly religious. This is not someone who says, I don't belong to any religion. There are people like this. 2 or 3% of Turks say they don't belong to any religion. The rest of them say they're Muslims, or almost all of them. There are some Christians and so on. But this coefficient, this is the effect that you get if you're a Muslim and you're not particularly religious. So you're a member of the Muslim religion, but you're not strongly believing. The intensity of a religion is not very strong. And that has a negative impact.
So
and then it's compensated by quite strong positive impact for every step on this 10-point or 11-point scale of religiosity.
So, I'm sorry, this coefficient, so it's Turkey, right? If it were Iran. It would
So
be
Iran
more-
is not
more-
in the sample. This is not just Turkey, because we have a dummy, we have a fixed effect for Turkey. And I'm not reporting this. These are just people who say they're Muslims, but this would be the effect for a non-religious Muslim. Well, a Muslim with zero religiosity on the 0 to 10 scale, which actually I would have to go and check whether there is any such person. It's possible that there's no such person in Turkey that would have zero on religiosity, but there are probably people who would have 1 or 2. So for these people, basically, if you have 1 or 2, for every point on the scale, you get 11, 0.11. So essentially, you have to have religiosity of roughly 5 or 6 to be at 0. So basically, you have to be somewhere at the midpoint of this 0 to 10 scale in order to have 0 effect on your happiness. And it's only when you have 6, when your declared religiosity is 6 or higher, that you actually start getting something out of it. And then we have also some differences. So here, for instance, being Muslim has a strongly negative impact. If you're non-religious, if you're not highly religious, but for every point on the religiosity scale, you get the highest benefit, and it doesn't really differ across men and women. On the other hand, for some other religions, I think it was other Christians, yeah, you have slightly more here. If you're Protestant, you have quite a bit more if you're a woman than if you're a man. I think that's probably the biggest difference. If you're a woman, generally you get more out of religiosity, but not by much, than if you're a man, and so on. So this is the first result. Basically, being a member of a religion is costly in terms of happiness, and this is compensated by the intensity of your belief. So it's basically, it's in the at the mental level where the happiness is coming from. It's not these material benefits that you get, because that's the person who was baptized as a Georgian Christian, goes to church for Christmas and Easter, but otherwise doesn't participate, and that basically doesn't give you any happiness bonus. It's the people who feel deeply religious that get this bonus. And then we have another set which are just like this, but here we have how often you pray and the interaction term, and here it actually becomes quite different. So praying increases your happiness. So the negative coefficient here, remember the scale is now reversed. 1 means that you pray every day, 7 means that you pray never. So the closer you are to pray never, the less happy you are. So the more you pray, the happier you are. That's the meaning of this negative coefficient. And then we have all these, so now basically, when we had religiosity, all of these coefficients were negative, all of these were positive, and now it's all over the place. Some of the membership dummies are negative, some of them are positive. Some of the interaction terms, actually most of the interaction terms are actually insignificant now. So essentially the interpretation of this set of results is, the more you pray, the happier you are. But the difference is, across different religions are not that important. Basically, the only Eastern Orthodox and Jewish people have a benefit from this. Actually, for Eastern Orthodox, praying more often makes you less happy. Again, you have to read it reverse. For Jewish people, the more they pray, the happier they are. But for the other religions, basically, we have a uniform effect across all religions. In this case, how often you pray doesn't have a different effect across the different religious categories. And also, we don't see the negative effects here. So praying more often doesn't make that much of a difference in the sense that it doesn't make the membership categories, the membership dummies, membership in religions negative, the way religiosity does. And yeah, so essentially, again, that kind of shows that what matters is the intensity of beliefs. It's not how often you pray increases your happiness, but you don't really see much of a difference across the different categories. Whereas in terms of the intensity of religiosity, you see quite significant differences. And that brings me to my conclusions. And so what we find is, overall, religious people tend to be happier. So there is a happiness bonus to being a member of a religion. Now, all religions are not equal. Some religions make you happier than others. There are some differences. Again, Eastern Orthodox get least out of it than the rest. We also, when we control for religiosity, we see some differences across the different religions. Generally, the more religious you are, the happier you feel. But just being a member of a religion on its own, without being strong religious, doesn't really make you happy. In fact, it makes you unhappy. To get this bonus due to religion, you actually have to be deeply religious. So it's, again, it's not so much material benefits as the immaterial spiritual benefits, or that the afterlife, the prospect of afterlife, or whatever else that make you happier if you're religious, not whatever else you get just from being a member of a religion. Praying makes you happy as well. This basically I said already. So just being a member of a religion doesn't do all that much. And then if you are looking for some sort of advice what to do in order to be happier, based on this presentation, then if you're looking for a new religion to join, you should probably join the other Christian religion. I have no affiliation with any of them. So it's not that I'm proselytizing or trying to drum up support for a particular religion. But when you do, you have to be really serious about it. So you have to really believe rather than just join, and pray as much as you can. And then that's your path to heaven.
I'm interested in